Southwest Florida. Welcome back to Mount Hermon Ministries, where we're in the final stages of a symposium that's going to be very educational to the community. The Virtual Clergy Symposium, Systematic Justice and Policing in Communities of Color. It's taking place here on this July 1st. Big shout out to Pastor William Glover and First Lady Cheryl Glover and all the members of Mount Hermon Ministries for continuing to be trailblazers and keeping us educated here. I have here a famed attorney in our community, Joe North of the North Law Firm, who will be a part of the panel. Joe, welcome to Lee Pitts Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lee.
You have made a name for yourself for being the community attorney, in the sense of we see you walking amongst the communities and all diverse communities, but certainly in the African American community, you are highly respected and probably the most popular black attorney in Southwest Florida. Tell us about your thought process as it relates to your intimate relationship with your own community in Dunbar. You born and raised, right?
Yes, so it's a very personal relationship for me because I was born and raised right here in Dunbar. Actually, I went to kindergarten in this church a long time ago.
Oh, really?
Where we're sitting right now. So the community, the people in the community, and what happens here, all of that tend to be very important to me and personal to me.
When you see a symposium that's going to take place tonight, which we have never had this type of a symposium that I can recall in the community, certainly being able to take advantage of technology and people can sit at home and watch it. When you see something like this being put together, how does it make you feel to know that there's the coming together of law enforcement and legislators in the black church to have a discussion like this?
I love it. And what I'm looking forward to is when you ask the questions tonight, that myself and everyone else on this panel, that we're not going to think about the answer. We're not going to think about what's politically correct, because now's the time to actually do something. So I hope that we're all going to be frank and talk about what needs to be done to correct some of the wrongs that have been happening and to make sure that we protect all of the things that we've been doing right, because we have been doing some things right, so we need to continue doing those, but we got to correct the wrongs too.
Yeah, but as an attorney, you see things and read things and see documents, and you're legal representation in some cases, and people call you even in areas that you don't do practice law. Do you see a very unequal balance between law enforcement in the black community, or is it a misconception?
It is not a misconception, and I'll say it. It's the truth, because I'll give you an example. I had a case a couple of years ago where my client was shot at an apartment complex, and as he's laying on the ground and the first responders come up, police officers come up, he's treated as though he's done something wrong, like he's the perpetrator, yet he's the victim laying in his own blood. And the way he was treated that night, I know it's true what he tells me, because when I deposed the police officer, he admitted to all of it. So if my client had been a different skin color, I don't think he would have been treated that way.
Mm-hmm. The George Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean, that has started discussions all over the country, and we here in Southwest Florida, we are having our discussions, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
As an attorney, when you watch the first time you watched video on the George Floyd, did you have any concept that it would take off to the magnitude that it has taken off in terms of social consciousness now?
No. I mean, that was a very, very sad thing which happened, but it has been a trampoline for, I think, a movement that is much needed. And when I first saw it, I didn't think it would jump off to where it is now, but I was shocked, really. Mm-hmm. Even with things that I see as a practicing attorney, I just could not believe that in 2020 that is happening.
Did you, in my mind, I'm immediately saying, I had gotten immune to it. I'm so used to seeing black men being killed on video that I just figured it'd just be another thing that no justice would come from it. You being in the law, I think the general thing is, what can you prove, right?
Well, it always is what can you prove, but camera phones have really helped that a lot, because now we don't have a he said, she said. We've got video proof of what happened. And I think we all know that had there not been video proof of what happened that night, that afternoon, we wouldn't be having the conversation today.
Mm-hmm. There are certain laws that protect law enforcement officers. You know the law.
Qualified immunity, yes.
Right. Qualified immunity. Sesame Street that for us. What is qualified immunity?
Well, in a nutshell, that means that if a police officer does something wrong or breaks the law, that officer cannot be sued civilly. You can sue the department, but you cannot sue that officer. And I think what should be allowed, a law that should be enacted, is if an officer commits that type of wrong, that officer should not be allowed to keep his or her benefits. Because in any other type of employment, if you get terminated for will or at will, then you lose your benefits.
I see.
Yeah, so why not apply that to police officers as well? Because if that's the case, then maybe some of the officers would think twice before committing these wrongs if they would lose all of their benefits. And in fact, give those benefits to the victim,
Mm-hmm. So essentially you're saying abolishment of the qualified immunity?
I think so.
And then start anew?
Yeah.
With some new type of federal, this would be a federal or state type legislature.
Well, it starts federally, and then the states have the opportunity to enact those laws,
Okay.
or to enact a variation of the law.
Okay. What do you hope that people will take away from tonight's discussion?
That we're not kicking the can down the road anymore. That this is similar to the civil rights movement that we saw in the 60s, and that we are going to see some change now. And I tell you, when I talk to people who are my parents' age, who lived through the 60s, what I hear from them is that what's happening now is it just has a greater feeling than what even was going on in the 60s, because you have more people involved. It's not just black people marching, it's white people marching, sometimes more whites than blacks marching,
Mm-hmm.
all over the world.
What do you have to say to, final question, what do you have to say to Mount Hermon Ministries under the leadership of Pastor William Glover for having the forethought to bring all these different people together, different disciplines, to have an open dialogue? Hats
off to him. And I tell you, I think that what some people don't know is he's been doing it for a while. Not just him, but some of the other black clergy. They've been meeting and having organizations trying to make things better for the community with law enforcement for a long time. But because of what happened to George Floyd, there's a brighter light shine on it now. But they've been doing this for a while.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get some closing comments from you back here on this set after this symposium is over, okay?
All right. Thank you, Lee.
All right. We'll be right back with another interview, hopefully.